Hello and welcome to probably the most built up video I've ever made. First of all, a bit of admin. So if you are watching this video a few days after it came out, then you'll know what my new project car is because I would have changed the thumbnail and probably updated the title and things. But if you don't know what the project car is, then there's a bit of a intro. So I really like cars from the 50s and 60s. I think that for me is like the best era of motoring in terms of motorsport, innovation, and just the sheer like beauty of some of the cars that came out, like curvy cars, GTs, all that kind of stuff, sports cars, all of those cars that came out then. Some of the best cars that have ever been built, that looks wise certainly, came from that era in my opinion. However, when we got to like the end of the 60s, early 70s, I don't know if it was because of the space race or something, automotive design went a bit crazy for sort of futuristic stuff, and we got really good concept cars around then. So there was the Maserati Boomerang, which was a pretty daring wedge-like car, which I think it was Giorgetto Giugiaro design there. And we also got the Alfa Romeo Carabo, I think. I think that was another. I think that was a Bertone design. And of course, production car wise, we got the Lamborghini Countach. Now these cars, sort of sleek, futuristic type cars, were kind of the template, I think, for the modern supercar in a way. And certainly some of the silhouettes of those earlier wedge-like cars were seen through the 80s, again like Countach going into the Diablo, and even Ferraris going with the Testarossa, and later like the smaller ones, so the 348 and 355 had a very distinctive silhouette. Now there was a British car manufacturer who had a reasonable amount of motorsport success, particularly in Formula One, who was looking for a new car. And I think that the car they came up with was one of the most iconic cars of this genre, even though it was from sort of humble beginnings with a small manufacturer in the UK. And I think the fact that it appeared in a certain film franchise helped its appeal there. And you've probably guessed what it is by now. So if you're still in any doubt, then I would dust off your tuxedo, pour yourself a vodka martini, and say hello to my Lotus Esprit. Okay, so the one that I've bought is a 1979 model. It's an S2, and I think James Bond had an S1 in The Spy Who Loved Me, and later a Turbo Esprit in For Your Eyes Only. Two of them, in fact, in that film. So the S2 kind of fits in between those two models, and it's kind of a Series 1 or S1 with some sort of minor styling changes and some improvements. But I think it still sort of very much resembles the original sort of design intent. Again, Giorgetto Giugiaro design there, with that nice sort of wedge-like profile. And I think the great thing about the Esprit, and it kind of holds true for the Lamborghini Countach as well, I guess, is that they look a bit like concept cars for the road, and nothing looks like an Esprit on the road, but yet the shape is so familiar, and you see it in cars since then. It's that sort of classic now, I suppose, mid-engined coupe sort of shape, very well proportioned, low slung car, and even with that sort of with those earlier cars with the glazed rear hatch and being able to see sort of the engine cover through the back window, I think is very cool. You may have noticed that the one I've bought is not in great shape, and there's a very good reason for that. So this car has been stored in a damp garage for at least 22 years. And the former owner, I think, passed away around 1998. So it may have been stored prior to that. And nobody knew about this car in this garage for all that time until housing developers wanted to use the garage to build some new houses, I presume. And the family of this previous owner discovered this car and wanted to find it a new home. And I now have it. It's quite a special car, so it's had one previous owner before me, and it's covered 30,000 original miles, so it makes it a very low mileage original Esprit, but it needs a total do-over. It needs everything. So the engine turns, but who knows what's going on in there. It's going to need, obviously, new timing belts and oil and everything else, but I think only a real engine rebuild can guarantee that it's not going to blow up or something. The interior is disgusting, so that needs complete sort of redoing as well. And I've not had a chance to look at the chassis, but I'm presuming the worst. I'm presuming we need to take off the body, get the chassis out, blah blah blah. But I'm going to do a more detailed video, I think, once lockdown measures are kind of lifted a bit, because it's stored at my parents' house at the moment. I went there for literally half an hour the other day to get the car from the garage I bought it from off the trailer onto the drive. Had about 5 or 10 minutes to take some photos, some video before coming home again. So this is a totally surreal situation for me. Doesn't even feel like I own it, yet I do. Bizarrely, I wasn't even looking for a Lotus Esprit, but yet I can't think of a better car to get stuck into as a project car. So, a bit of background for me and the Esprit. I'm a bit of a Bond fan, and I have wanted to own a Lotus Esprit for ever. Ever since I saw Spy Who Loved Me, I thought that was the coolest car I've ever seen. Okay, it's not an S1 that I've got, but the S2 is a great choice as well. Staying true to that original sort of design intent, but more sort of usable with the additions there that they made to improve it. So what I was after was a more sporty drive, effectively. So obviously I've got my MG, which is my classic car, and I've got my XK8, which is my very capable Grand Tourer, very relaxing, quite fast, cover great distances very easily. But I didn't have a car which was sort of capable on the sort of B roads, I suppose, a kind of B road blast. And I originally looked, when I was making those comments in my previous video at the beginning of the year, to say, I want to get another car, I want it to be something a bit different to what I've got, I don't want it to be too expensive, etc, etc. At the time I was kind of thinking, well, I like the Porsche Cayman, people go on about how great they are. I also like the Lotus Elise, and the last time I looked at an Elise was a good sort of 6 or 7 years ago, and they're very affordable, around sort of £8,000 to £10,000 for a good example. But they've really gone up, especially for a Series 1. Series 2, you can still get a decent example, sort of mid-teens, but I thought I was way out of my price range or whatever. So I actually set my sights a bit lower, and I was looking at Toyota MR2s, and I love those as well. I've wanted one since I was, in my late teens. I thought I was going to get a Mark II. I went to see a few of them, but ended up getting my first MGB actually instead. A bit more of an enthusiast car, I suppose. But I've still always had that itch for a mid-engined car, and I thought the MR2 ticks all the boxes. So it's cheap to buy, it's cheap to run. It looks nice, pop-up headlights, pretty cool. But just looking through eBay at MR2s, I thought, I wonder how much Lotus Esprits are now, and I saw they'd gone up ridiculous amounts. So you used to be able to buy a decent shaped Esprit probably for, well, when I was looking a long time ago, probably about between £6,000 and £10,000 would buy you a pretty mint example of an Esprit. But now S1s, stratospheric, S2s in good condition, you're looking at sort of 30,000 plus. So I thought, oh, that's no good. And then I saw this very tired looking S2 for less than half of that for sale, and I saw that it was a one owner 30,000 mile car, and I thought, oh, it's the only chance I've got at probably owning one now. So I just had to go for it, and I'm so glad I have, and I can't wait to get stuck into restoring it. I'm going to try and do as much as I can myself. I'm probably going to make another video, like I said, about going around it in a bit more detail, a bit of a walk around once the lockdown stuff is lifted and social distancing isn't so much of an issue. I don't think it's fair to sort of go there and sort of risk my parents catching anything, whether I've got anything or not. Hopefully not. And yeah, do a bit more of a detail, see what's actually going on with it, see if I can have a look at the chassis underneath, even though you can't see all of it, but you might get a general idea from the outside of the car, and then see where we go. So I have got a bit of a plan. I don't have the money to actually just pay somebody to restore it, so I've got to do some of it myself. And actually I want to give a massive shout out to a YouTube channel called Soup Classic Motoring, I think it's called, a guy called George who runs that, and he's restoring a Series 2 Esprit, and I'd already seen this car, but watching his channel really convinced me that it's something that I wanted to do and to really go for it. So I know he probably won't be watching this channel because I'm tiny and invisible pretty much to general search, but you know, thanks to that guy, he's an inspiration. If you're interested in those kind of cars, or even Land Rovers and Range Rovers, he restores those as well. So worth a watch there. Soup Classic Motoring. He's a really good actually. He does. He's obviously into his filmmaking, and he's very professional. He's a good presenter, not like me. I'm terrible, but he also does a lot of time doing stop motion animation of the disassembly and reassembly of the car, and it's incredible to watch and must take him absolutely ages to do, but very well presented. And yeah, I'll give it a look, even if you're not interested in those cars, because it's interesting to see it. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about my new project car. Hopefully you're as excited as I am about it, and I can't wait to get stuck into restoring it. My previous video where I kind of hinted I was going to buy, well, I didn't hint, I said that I bought a new project car, but I wasn't revealing what it was, but I said there was a clue somewhere in here about what it was, and a couple of people had got it, and it was down here, probably out of shot actually. I had a genuine Lotus Esprit workshop manual. So these are pretty rare now, and I paid probably too much for this, but I think it's going to come in handy when I try to restore my effectively barn find Esprit back to its former glory. So thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in seeing how I get on with the car, then I don't normally say it because I don't recruit subscribers. People can make up their own minds, but if you don't want to miss out on these videos, then yeah, subscribe, why not, and see what mess I've got myself into. And I'll be back with some more videos very soon. See you later. Bye.